Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. Yesterday we gave you our SEC quarterback rankings, and today we are here to break down our Big Ten quarterback rankings. And the Big Ten, guys, is not as deep at the position as the SEC and maybe some of the other conferences across the country, but they are still loaded with talent, especially towards the top of the conference. And so we're going to go ahead and jump right on into our rankings today. Again, starting at 14th, heading all the way up to number 1, and coming in at number 14 in our Big Ten quarterback rankings, we've got Gavin Wimsatt at Rutgers. And this one should be, expected. This was an easy one for us. He's a highly touted recruit at Rutgers, but he's young. He's inexperienced. He attempted just 21 passes in 2021. He completed just 9 of them and also threw 2 interceptions. But we're not dogging on Wimsatt for that. Again, highly touted recruit that is going to have another full year under Greg Schiano to learn the system. And right now, for the next few years, he is the future of Rutgers football. And if he lives up to his hype, lives up to the potential, can get Rutgers back to the postseason. In at 13, Ryan Helinski at Northwestern. He transferred in from South Carolina, but did not pan out well in Evanston last year. At South Carolina in 2019, he threw for over 2,300 yards and 11 touchdowns. People wanted that at Northwestern in 2021. Instead, Helinski was wildly inconsistent, 978 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Obviously was not entirely healthy across the entirety of the season, but he's not panning out. But more than likely, he is going to be the starter at Northwestern in 2022, which means he needs a big year. Pat Fitzgerald and the Wildcats typically alternate a good year and a bad year. Last year was a bad year for the Wildcats. If they're going to keep up the pattern, Helinski has got to step it up. In at number 12, Spencer Petras at Iowa. Look, Iowa won the Big Ten West last year, made the Big Ten championship, but it wasn't because of their quarterback. Petras played in 12 games for the Hawkeyes last year and threw just 10 touchdowns. 12 games, 10 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He also only threw for a little over 1,800 yards. He completed just 57.3% of his passes, Iowa relying heavily on the run game and obviously the strength of their defense. If Iowa wants to win the Big Ten West again, if they want to be a solid contender again, Petras has to step up, and he has to step up in a big way. 1,880 yards isn't going to cut it. 10 touchdowns and 9 interceptions isn't going to cut it. Petras coming in at 12th in our Big Ten quarterback rankings because he simply was not that good in 2021. And at number 11, we have a transfer, Tommy DeVito at Illinois, coming in from Syracuse. DeVito did not play much in 2020 or 2021, but in 2019, threw for over 2,300 yards, 19 touchdowns, and only 5 interceptions with the Orange. To me, this is a perfect fit for Brett Bielema at Illinois. They're getting a guy in DeVito who has a solid arm, who is pretty accurate, who has experience at another Power 5 conference, and I think he's going to do a great job in helping Illinois trying to find themselves back to the postseason. He's not flashy, he's not one of the best in the conference, but he's consistent. He will be consistent for the Fighting Illini, and quarterback consistency is something that Illinois has struggled with for years now. DeVito, I think, is the answer to that. In at number 10, Graham Mertz at Wisconsin. Mertz was a highly touted recruit, very similar to Gavin Wimsatt. 5-star recruit. Everybody thought that he was going to come into Wisconsin and solve all their quarterback issues that they've had. And if anything, he's just created more. He's falling short of his lofty expectations. In 2 years as a starter, Mertz has 19 touchdowns and 16 interceptions. In 2021, he actually had more interceptions, 11, than he did touchdowns in 10. He never eclipsed 250 yards passing in 2021. That's not going to cut it for Wisconsin. Yes, they're a team that prides themselves on defense and the run game, but if they want to take that next step to win the Big Ten and maybe make the playoff, Mertz has to step up with them. And so far in the last 2 years, he has not shown that he can do that. He comes in at number 10. In at number 9, another transfer, Connor Bazelak, transferring in to Indiana from Missouri. Bazelak was a 2-year starter at Missouri, and last year threw for over 2,500 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. And when we broke down the SEC these last few years, we would always talk about Bazelak. We would say, he's nothing special. He's not a crazy, great athletic quarterback, but the one thing you're going to get from Connor Bazelak is accuracy. Last year at Missouri, completing 65.3% of his passes. He's going to bring accuracy. He's going to step into his throws. Again, nothing special, nothing fancy, but he's going to give Indiana some consistency at the quarterback position. He's going to give them some life at the quarterback position, and that's something that Tom Allen and the Hoosiers desperately need after a very disappointing 2-10 season in 2021. In at number 8, Tanner Morgan at Minnesota. He had a great 2019 season. He threw for 30 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, led Minnesota to 11 victories in 2019. But the last 2 years, he's fallen off. Just 17 touchdowns and 14 interceptions in the last 2 years combined. Last year, he threw for a little over 2,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, and just 9 interceptions. Morgan has to bounce back. But I will give him this. He's 8th on this list. Despite some poor stats the last few years, he's 8th on this list because he's one of the more experienced quarterbacks in the entire conference. And when he's on, he is extremely accurate. He was extremely accurate in 2019. We know what Morgan is capable of, and I have a feeling you will see another version of that 2019 Morgan. You'll see that 2019 guy back in 2022. In at number 7, Sean Clifford at Penn State. Look, a lot of people have a love-hate relationship with Sean Clifford, especially the Penn State faithful. But I think he's done a pretty dang good job in replacement of Trace McSorley. 60 touchdowns in 3 years at Penn State. Clifford's got a good size. He's got a big frame. He threw for over 3,100 yards, 21 touchdowns, just 8 interceptions in 2021. And it was huge that Clifford decided to come back to school for 2022. Gives Penn State, again, consistency at quarterback, a veteran at the quarterback position, and gives them a chance once again to try to get over the hump, win the Big Ten East, and maybe win the Big Ten for the first time since 2016. In at number 6, another transfer. Casey Thompson at Nebraska, transferring in from Texas. This is a huge get for Scott Frost and new offensive coordinator Mark Whipple. Thompson appeared in every game for Texas last year, but he wasn't always the starter. Despite that, guys, he still had over 2,100 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, just 9 interceptions. Also had 4 rushing touchdowns. Last year, we believe that Thompson should have been the starter for Texas. I think Texas would have at least gone bowling had Steve Sarkisian made him the full-time starter. But he did not. And now Thompson is in Lincoln with the Cornhuskers. And I think he's going to do great things. He's an accurate passer, extremely accurate passer. He gives Nebraska that dual threat capability. And maybe gives them that missing piece, not to dog on Adrian Martinez, but gives them that missing piece that can hopefully get Nebraska to their first bowl game since Scott Frost arrived. We're now into the top 5. And in at number 5 in the Big Ten, Peyton Thorne at Michigan State. Did a phenomenal job last year as starter, guys. Phenomenal job for the Spartans last year as starter, completing 60.4% of his passes for over 3,200 yards, 27 touchdowns, 31 total if you count the 4 rushing touchdowns, led Michigan State to an 11-win season and a Peach Bowl victory. You know, everybody wants to talk about Kenneth Walker last year. He was the entire offense for Michigan State. I don't think Peyton Thorne gets enough credit. And now he comes back as one of the better quarterbacks within this conference. Michigan State being one of the better teams within this conference. And the Spartans looking to maybe get over the hump and win the Big Ten East after falling just short last year. And at number 4, the other Michigan quarterback, Cade McNamara with the Michigan Wolverines. Some may say these guys should be flopped. Maybe Thorne should be 4th, McNamara should be 5th. Some say McNamara should be lower than 4th. But look, the one thing that McNamara was last year was consistent. He led Michigan to a Big Ten title, led them to the college football playoff, completed 64.2% of his passes for over 2,500 yards and 15 touchdowns. Again, this guy wasn't flashy, he wasn't spectacular, but he was good. And he was a major reason why Michigan got to the college football playoff. Sub him J.J. McCarthy if you will. Maybe you think he's going to get the nod this year. I would still put J.J. McCarthy up here at 4th. Alongside Cade McNamara or in substitution of him. Whatever Michigan quarterback it is, we would have them at 4. But right now we're going with McNamara because of what he did last year and what we think he will do again this year in helping Michigan try to remain relevant on the national stage. In at number 3, Talia Tagovailoa at Maryland. The brother of Tua comes in at 3rd in the Big Ten after throwing for over 3,800 yards and 26 touchdowns in 2021. Also helping Maryland get over the hump, get to a bowl game under Mike Locksley, and win it in dominating fashion over Virginia Tech. Tagovailoa, on top of having a great arm, is extremely accurate. completed 69.2% of his passes in 2021. That's unreal. Nearly 70% of his passes. Strong arm, accurate arm. Maryland, once again, having lofty expectations heading in to 2022. In at number 2, guys, you have a pretty good feeling who's going to be number 1. But in at number 2, we have Aiden O'Connell at Purdue. Purdue's passing offense has just taken off under Jeff Brom, and Aiden O'Connell was finally the guy they decided to settle on. Threw for over 3,700 yards and 28 touchdowns in 2021, led Purdue to a 9-win season and a thrilling bowl victory over Tennessee. And on top of all of that, he completed 71.6% of his passes. Not only one of the best marks within the Big Ten, but one of the best marks within the entire country. O'Connell is the perfect guy for this Purdue offense. Great deep ball, accurate, very strong arm, and he is going to be the reason that Purdue will or will not win the Big Ten West in 2022. And the Boilermakers, guys, are absolutely title contenders in 2022. Coming in at number 1, it should be no surprise, it is C.J. Stroud at Ohio State. Not only the best quarterback in the Big Ten, but one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country. A Heisman finalist in 2021. He threw for over 4,400 yards in 2021. 44 touchdowns to just 6 interceptions. Barely beat out Aiden O'Connell, completing 71.9% of his passes just last year. Unreal numbers for a guy that was a first-time starter for Ohio State. Took over the reins in his first year in the Horseshoe, first year in Columbus, put up those type of numbers. And with the supporting cast that he has around him heading into 2022, the sky's the limit for C.J. Stroud in Ohio State. Very well could win the Heisman, very well could win the Big Ten, very well could make the college football playoff, and very well could win the entire dang thing. Very well could win the national championship. And just like we said with Aiden O'Connell, the reason that Ohio State will do all of that, possibly do all of that, is because of their star quarterback, their young star quarterback in C.J. Stroud, who we believe is the best quarterback in the Big Ten heading into this season. So there you go, guys. There are your Big Ten quarterback rankings heading into 2022. We want to hear from you. Do you agree or disagree with these rankings? Where should these quarterbacks be ranked heading into this season? We still have 3 conferences left that we're going to be breaking down: the ACC, the Big 12, and the Pac-12. We'll be talking about their quarterbacks here in the following days. But we want to hear from you and hear your thoughts as we gear up for college football, because it is right around the corner. But until then, guys, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below. Become a part of what we're building here at the Gridiron Expert. Become a part of what we're building here at the channel, and become a part of our GE Nation. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.